Greetings! It is I, Tantus Narrator, your Lord and Emperor, here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome! It's time for more Spooktober topics. We've been going on deep into a large number of, well, kind of generally spooky, darker tones of tabletop topics, and we've got a couple more for today in Pathfinder. So if you're joining me live on Twitch, hey, welcome. If you're joining me on YouTube, also welcome very much so. I might try to start figuring out ways to, also live stream on YouTube or something. I don't know if that'd be better or worse for my content. I know you can dual stream now, sort of, but Twitch doesn't. But I might not be in a position to do that yet. So things to think about, things to discuss, things to figure out in the future. But for now, before we worry about this, today's question: have you played Conrasu? Because that's what we're going to be talking about today. Because they're strange alien beings, plant-like beings, that have a strange consciousness. They are very outer worlds, extraplanar, not quite Lovecraftian in nature, but still unusual enough that they are strange creatures given consciousness in a plant body. But we'll talk about that. Let's discuss what books. There's only one book today that I can really shout out because it's a book that, well, mainly introduced them and talked about them, and that's, of course, the Pathfinder 2nd edition book, the Mwangi Expanse Lost Omens book. So I would definitely recommend, if you want to read up on them, there's only a few pages worth of information in the book on them. Archives of Nethys can give you some more mechanical sides of things, too, on them. So they are a very new ancestry, a new creature that has been introduced, and there is an image of it. Which is a little better for images. That's a little better. We'll do that one then. A little bigger. So, they are plant-like. They are a rare ancestor, and they are from the Mwangi Expanse. They're basically these beings that are given conscious by spiritual forces in a very unknown mannerism. They construct their forms from wooden exoskeletons to interact with the world around them. They have this existential uncertainty of their own existence because they are basically alien creatures in a wood body that they're constructed around themselves, almost. It is not naturally that they are a plant creature in a way, but they are, so it's very strange. So they do seek out aeons to understand their place in the universe. Of course, if you are unaware of what an aeon is, they preserve the balance of the great beyond. They are the ones that maintain the universe in a way. Created on the astral plane, and their entire purpose is to basically maintain the universe. So when you talk about a Conrasu, and you can see very easily from the image provided here, they have two components in their appearance. And their true form is the kind of globe of light, darkness, space, as it is seen by mortals around them. So that's basically like the essence of their core, is that blob of something. And bodies form around this core created from living wood that they constantly regrow to prevent loss of mobility as the plant matter that grows around them hardens over time. So it is a interesting thing that, yes, they do have two living components to them. The plant material around them is alive, and yes, they have to kind of regrow it here and there because it ages, it maybe dies, it hardens. So whatever the form this exoskeleton of wood takes varies. And the appearances oftentimes are constructed about whatever path they take in life. The physical body that they do maintain, that they've chosen to maintain, is what people recognize most of the time as the Conrasu, even though really what they are is the dark blob of thing in the middle of existence of some. So they're in a very honestly strange place in existence, I would say, kind of in a way. Afternoon one. Anyway. So, they do have this ability to shape their exoskeletons. And yes, as a Conrasu kind of comes into its skills and developments, it cultivates its form into a way that predates to their calling in existence, into their lives. And so, yes, that's why you do have a lot of Conrasu that have very different outside forms a lot of times, because they've shaped the bodies that they have to whatever they're doing. They can overlap their exoskeletons to add extra protection, grow natural weapons, reinforce knots and branches to defend themselves. They are in a way connected with Aeons, which they do go to for advice. They are also capable of tapping into the plane of access, the lawful plane in the Golarion cosmos for knowledge and guidance. In the Pathfinder cosmos, I should say. Golarion is the planet and not the plane itself completely. They can meditate, have rituals that basically can connect themselves with also natural aspects like sunlight, plant growth. So they have these sources of connections to natural things, which come from, space and existence itself, law, and then nature, because they are part plant in a way. But it's a weird thing, because it's sort of like the plant is a shell, but it's a living shell that they grow around them. It's very interesting that way. So the life cycle of a Conrasu is naturally tied to the, natural world, as they are physically plant. The exoskeleton has constant maintenance, regrowing new material, and neglect can basically harden to almost immobility. And if a Conrasu loses its body, it will dissipate and pass away. Basically, they are physically actually connected to the plant body, even though the plant body is less important than the dark space eye. It's just this interesting fact that, intrinsically the two are connected together. Exposing themselves to sunlight could possibly help them regrow and restore some vitality, though, if they are in a situation where they've lost a lot, damaged, and kind of things like that. Clear my throat and drink some water. Here's also Conrasu, which looks very different, if you note. Yeah. So there are three distinct types of Conrasu, if we talk about their general society ability. Maintainers, who tend to others and cultivate balance in all things. Shapers, who build and direct others to maintain equilibrium. And correctors, who are the problem solvers that see the world in absolutes, with very little room for exceptions. There are some rare Conrasu who are called to service from extraplanar services, serving beneath psychopomps or archons. Occasionally they may adopt an unknown entity as a patron and become a witch. So it's not outside of the idea that they can actually venture into other areas here. Each path in a Conrasu's life is influenced by the guidance of Aeons. And that's an interesting thing, is that Aeons are technically lawful neutral. So there's this guidance of lawful neutral that exists within them. And they are champions of values of balance and harmony in their dealings. Most live Conrasu live within enclaves, with the Searchi consisting of the foremost amongst these enclaves and in the heart of their civilization as being built. Here, the Shapers tend to vast tree nurseries, and with them sprouting several Conrasu limbs, having potential to grow new Conrasu in their exoskeleton. So basically, they cultivate the trees, which have the ability to become more of their kind. There's also Copse, which is another enclave between Krejci and Lake Okta. Again, trees are cultivated to reinforce the young Conrasu's exoskeletons before they venture outwards. And many Conrasu spend time learning to craft themselves as traditions. Because again, it's like, this interesting thing is you craft your wood body. So, a Conrasu that is drawn to become an adventurer is attracted to the role that they may have in their... is often affected by the role that they held in their society. Maintainers are often drawn to become wizards, clerics, and bards, allowing them to contribute their unique connection to magic and knowledge to their peers. Correctors might become champions and fighters, wishing to manipulate their exoskeletons into protective armor and weaponsies. There are rare occasionalities that might bring a shaper to adventure, where they become a druid or even a bard. Traveling with groups that allow them to accomplish missions outside their enclave. It's, no matter what role they do take, though, they tend to come from similar backgrounds that reflect upon whether they are most comfortable at home or exploring the open world. So, this is kind of what we know about Conrasu as they are. They're a rare group and an unusual group nonetheless. An interesting group. A very alien nature, but they kind of just are, and are connected with aeons and axes and a little bit of the multiverse of Golarion, the universe, the places beyond, but they are unique in a lot of ways. And I think that's an important part when we talk about what a Conrasu is, because they are very unique. They are motes of maybe existence itself manifest upon Golarion and connecting with plants to form bodies to interact with the world and given a consciousness. You know, you are a being of the universe. And it connects, again, aeons are a very important part of maintaining. They are lawful, not neutral aeons, but they are a being that basically maintains the balance of the universe. That is their entire goal, is to make sure that the universe, the great beyond, all that exists in the various planes of existence in the multiverse of Golarion, exist properly. That is the role that they hold. And these are beings that are perhaps related to them, made manifest on Golarion and given life on Golarion. And what actual connections there are, what things are, it's really hard to say, because no one knows where Conrasu actually came from. Like, are they created through a wizard attempting to manipulate things, conjure scraps of an aeon, conjured aeon but got scraps of it, a failed wizard experiment to manipulate the universe, so no one knows for sure. But, again, one leads to others, and they growing trees, which can act as places where more of them form around each other, means that they do have this reproductiveness, even though they are most likely connected with each other. When a Conrasu grows a tree that splits off and forms new Conrasu, is it because they are in proximity to a lot of them? Is it because that one growing that tree was the act of creating another one? These are answers that really questions that really aren't answers for. But they are an interesting, very alien being that is not necessarily relatively new, but relatively unknown, because they are deep in the Mongi expanse, in this own little area where they've been developing and evolving and forming a society. And we are finding more of them now traveling out into Golarion as a whole, exploring, adventuring, and maybe following some of those voices of the Aeons. And yeah, as a society, they do tend to be very lawful neutral. But again, they are individuals, and things could shape the way they look at the world, or stuff like that. Or some of them ending up in the service of other beings may change the way that they look at things. When we talk about things like Archons or lawful gods, Psychopomps are neutral. other unique beings for becoming witches could draw them in other directions. And it's not to say that they have a very ingrained alignment, but it doesn't mean that that will always be there for an individual because of experience. And they are individuals. They can grow, they can change, and they may be aeons and plants. They may be an aeon type of creature, but they are not an outsider type of creature. I think that's the way to say it is. They are a being of Golarion as much as everything else, even though they have this deep connection to the outer planes and reality itself. Their connection to their natural bodies, which is required for them to survive, proves they are deeply connected with this plane, and beings that are connected with a plane that is just a material plane, as much as your origin dictates things, you can grow and change. Look at Asmars and Tieflings and other beings that have connected to the outer planes. Many of them fall into lines with other alignments are connected to where they originated from. But plenty of them evolve beyond that. Conrasu is no different. They might not be the child of a humanoid and some kind of strange, lawful being from beyond the stars. They're a child of a plant and a strange, lawful being from beyond the stars, in a way. But doesn't mean that they don't have those potentials. That's where the characters that travel out in the world come in. Anyway, I think that's a good point for Conrasu. This was a short one today, and knew it was going to be a short one. There's not a lot on them, but I wanted to talk about them because they're an interesting one to talk about in this kind of alien-type creature that's from beyond the universe itself, and very interesting, connected to the great beyond and the universe itself. I thought that might be an appropriate thing for something unusual in Spokova. So, if you want to see more tabletop stuff, it goes up on YouTube. It's up on Twitch. If you're watching for Twitch, it's different Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Thursdays usually the Pathfinder stuff. Saturdays usually World of Darkness stuff. It's early afternoon Tuesdays and Thursdays. Usually between 1 and 2 I start, maybe a little later depending on life schedules. And then around 11 o'clock, very on the nose, Saturdays. I do other stuff. I do live shows. It technically will be up the same time as this one, so you can check out at the Crimson Queen is the upcoming one for my Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Live plays Pathfinder. That'll be starting very soon. Discussing tabletop Saturdays in the evening at around 6 p.m. And then I usually do some game streams. So follow on Twitch is a great thing. If you're up on YouTube, subscription there. Leaving a like, leaving a comment. Hey, I asked about the Conrasu if you played one, or you've actually had characters and interact with one. But also like ringing the bell if you're already a subscriber and things like that. Give a great support. And I have social media, Discord, and Twitter.com. Alright, that's going to be the call for today. I hope you enjoyed learning about Conrasu, and until the next time we meet and talk about more interesting ancestors, which maybe there'll be a point in time we'll revisit them. I don't know. We have a lot more information. Huge more books are coming out there, then maybe we will. But until that time, I bid all of you out there a farewell.